if you put that 100% tariff on top of what's in place already,
55.
but 157% tariff on China, can that stand?
No,
I mean, what is that going to do to the economy?
It's not sustainable, but that's what the number is. It's probably not, it could stand, but they forced me to do that.
So that was a visibly nervous Donald Trump getting grilled by a MAGA Fox News host, Maria Bartiromo. She was pretty tough there. She's like, hey, listen, your tariff policy sucks. You've started a trade war with China. Won't you admit that that's unsustainable? And he actually admits it. Like, actually, yeah, it's probably not sustainable. Then he tries to say, well, I mean, maybe it is, but you know what? They forced me to do it. China forced me to do it. That was Donald Trump once again admitting that he started a trade war with the second biggest economy on earth. And by his own admission, it is not sustainable. It is not feasible. It is a petulant demonstration of machismo, which is quite frankly unnecessary. But that's Trump for you. Now, a couple of days before this pretty shocking admission on Fox News, Trump made a different shocking admission, which is that he admitted what we already knew, but I figured he would just pretend is not the case, that we are, in fact, in a trade war that he started.
Mr. President, you're meeting with President Xi in a few weeks.
Yeah.
If you can't come to an agreement or a deal at that meeting, are we in for a sustained trade war with China?
Well, you're in one now. Look, we have 100% tariff. If we didn't have tariffs, we would be exposed as being a nothing. We would have no defense.
Okay, again, all of that's nonsense. The U.S. economy is typically by far the strongest on earth without massive trade wars with China or any other nation for that matter. And it's important to look at the devastation that this has wreaked on the American people, not just liberals and progressives and Democrats, but blue cities and blue states as well, or rather red cities and red states as well, Trump supporters, Trump voters. Axios has this article here breaking this down. According to a study, tariffs to cost company $1.2 trillion this year, mostly hitting consumers. Donald Trump's tariffs will cost businesses more than $1.2 trillion this year, with most of that cost being passed on to consumers, according to a new study from S&P Global. It's the latest sign that Americans will end up bearing the brunt of Trump's trade war. It also contributes to a picture of a much more difficult economy ahead. In the study published on Thursday, S&P Global found that companies are now expected to pay at least $1.2 trillion more in 2025 expenses than they anticipated on January 1st, in what researchers say is likely a conservative estimate. So that $1.2 trillion, the vast majority of it being passed on to consumers, that's a conservative estimate. Very likely, it's more than that. The researchers project that at least two-thirds of the expense shock will be passed on to consumers, with the rest absorbed by companies. The $1.2 trillion figure comes from via data collected from 15,000 analysts across 9,000 companies. Quote, the sources of this trillion-dollar squeeze are broad, the researchers said in the report. Quote, tariffs and trade barriers act as taxes on supply chains and divert cash to governments. Logistics delays and freight costs compound the effect, they wrote. Quote, collectively, these forces represent a systemic transfer of wealth from corporate profits to workers, suppliers, governments, and infrastructure investors. Zoom in. Trump's suspension of the de minimis rule this year increased the squeeze on companies, per the report. The rule, which meant that packages valued at less than $800 have enjoyed an exemption from added levies, allowed foreign online retailers like Temu and Shein to sell cheap items to American consumers. The suspension marked, quote, a clear inflection in global trade costs. AI lifted profit margins this year, research noted, but tariffs, quote, pulled them down. Now, that's a consequence of the Trump tariffs. Moreover, CNBC, which is more of a conservative finance news network, right? They still talk politics, but mostly as it reflects on the economy and finance policy. Small businesses are being crushed by Trump's tariffs, and economists say it's a warning for the economy. CNBC interviewed nearly a dozen small business owners to get a better understanding of how much tariffs are costing them and the impact duties are having on their strategy and operations. Many of the small businesses said they've been forced to freeze hiring, pull back growth plans, and take on new financing or cut salaries to keep operations afloat. Quote, it's to the point now where it could kill us, it could take us down, and I could lose everything. Being a small business owner isn't worth it when your country turns on you, said Jared Hendricks, the CEO of Village Lightning, a small business selling Christmas products. So again, we're just getting inundated with fact after fact after fact and evidence after evidence after evidence that Trump's trade wars which were totally unnecessary. But by the way, which he triggered, promising two almost mutually exclusive goals. He said, well, we need to correct trade deficits, and also we need to bring back manufacturing. And we've done none of those things. We continue to hemorrhage in jobs report after jobs report, manufacturing jobs. And to the extent that there has been trade rebalancing, what's the point? Like, what's inherently problematic or wrong with a trade deficit? Nothing. When I go grocery shopping, I have a trade deficit with the grocer in that they don't give me money. I give them more money than they give me because I'm getting something of value in return. I'm giving them money in exchange for groceries. Trump would look at that relationship and say, what the hell are you doing? You're spending money on groceries? That's a trade imbalance. That's a trade deficit. What are you doing, man? That's insane. That's terrible policy, except it's not. And his tariffs have been so wildly ridiculous. He's levied tariffs, absurd tariffs, punitive tariffs on places where we have trade surpluses, where they're buying more from us than we are from them. So again, there's no rhyme or reason to this. It's simply a punitive measure, I believe, to corruptly benefit Trump and his family. Because think about it. We've seen pattern after pattern after pattern where Trump inflicts a tariff or threatens to inflict a tariff and then reduces the tariff. And then just so coincidentally, he and his family will conduct business which benefits them, like a new golf resort or a golf course or a new hotel in that particular country, which is why Donald Trump is the most transparently, blatantly, egregious, corrupt president in the history of this country. But I just think it's fascinating that after all this is said and done, in a preview of an upcoming interview on Fox News, Maria Bartiromo was able to get Trump to finally admit that the trade war that he started with the world's second biggest economy for no damn reason, and then seems to regret immediately afterwards, is not sustainable. This man does not have an exit ramp. And I'll also remind you, we were promised 90 deals in 90 days. At best, I don't even know if we have ink on paper for anything. Some people say, well, what about the deal with the United Kingdom? That was a trade agreement, and I'm sure some of it is put into effect as effective policy at the moment, but that's not a trade deal. Trade deals are comprehensive. They are they consist of like painstaking, minute negotiations where you put pen to paper. Usually you're supposed to get it ratified by Congress. We don't have any of those. So what the hell did we get from these trade deals, these unsustainable trade wars that Trump is finally copping to under pressure? Higher rates of inflation, certainly. Inflation was going down under President Biden. It's ticked up under Donald Trump. The prices of groceries are more expensive now than they were under President Biden. Small businesses are getting crushed, apparently, by the Trump tariffs. What the hell did we actually get from this entire thing? Doesn't seem like much at all, and that's part of the problem. And despite having admitted that this trade war, this tariff that he's imposed on China is unsustainable, it doesn't seem like he intends to actually end it anytime soon, which in and of itself is a bigger problem. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.